Welcome to the On Your Side podcast. I'm Gary Harper.
And I'm Susan Campbell.
How is Susan today?
I'm good. I just had breakfast.
I saw that. It looked really good.
Some bacon, some biscuits, some hash browns.
My favorite part about that plate was the biscuit.
I know. It's so good.
I mean, they're so good. And
I don't say no to those things.
So you had, last time we did the podcast, you had a slight cold.
Yes.
Did you get rid of it?
I have recovered. It was the cold from you know where, though. It lasted like 5 weeks. So I don't know if it was one or if it was a continuation of like all kinds of different germs.
That's a long time.
It was terrible. But now I feel better. I feel normal.
Man.
And you never got it.
Okay, so I have a story for you. Remember what I told you the secret was to getting rid of a cold, and you refused.
Yeah, I did.
What was it?
The neti pot.
The neti pot.
Ooh.
Right? It washes out your nasals.
And you used it probably after you hung out with me.
After I hung out with you, I did come down with something.
Oh, no, Gary.
Maybe we should put a little plexiglass between us here or something. Oh,
gosh, I'm sorry.
But I did the neti pot for 2 days, and I did the emergency. You know what the emergency is? It's like 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C. Basically, you OD on vitamin C.
And you're good as new.
Listen, my nose is good. I'm back to normal. You know what? Took me 2 days, took you 5 weeks.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm hearing you.
Yeah, so
I'm hearing you.
Anyway, you gotta listen. I have advice that's sometimes useful.
Every so often.
So today we're talking real estate.
Yeah.
I have a lot of favorite topics, and of course
this is high up there for you.
Yeah, that's high up there. Yeah, I love real estate. You've been in your house for a while.
Since we moved to Arizona, yeah, we've been in the same house, so now 4 years. We moved here 4 years ago.
So you probably got a really good interest rate.
We got a fantastic interest rate. We're under 3%.
Oh, under 3?
Yep, I know.
I wonder if we're ever going to see that again.
So we're going to be in that house forever and ever and ever.
Yeah. I mean, if you under 3%, that's. I mean, you really got in at a good time.
We did, yeah.
So
when prices were way lower than what they are now.
Yeah, what they are now. So as we know, 2023 crazy roller coaster ride, as we say, with real estate. I mean, interest rates, home prices, all over the place. Where is it?
Inventory
is low.
Yeah.
What do you think 2024 has in store? We don't have crystal balls. Nobody does, but analysts,
we do have some experts.
We do have analysts and experts who kind of keep a pulse on things and know what's going on. So today we're talking to Trevor Halpern. He joins us on the On Your Side podcast. You've earned numerous awards for real estate sales. You've been in the biz for numerous years. How are you today, Trevor?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Glad you're here on the podcast. Hey, let's kind of jump right into it. 2023, you make your bread and butter off of real estate. Were you impacted with the lack of sales?
Yeah, certainly. Everyone in our collective industry, from real estate agents to those who loan money, loan officers to title and escrow officers, everyone has been affected, both because the dollar volume in our marketplace is down, as well as the number of transactions. And we get paid as real estate agents on dollar volume and transactions. So yeah, we have all been affected. Thankfully, for me personally, not as dramatically as the market trends. And I think that's just as a result of being in the business for a long time and having people on all ends of the consumer spectrum. So, when rates are down and inventory is tight, sometimes that's a move that some people want to make. Investors, chiefly, I've been working with a lot of investors in this marketplace. So we've been a little bit insulated, not wholly insulated, but a little bit. But, you look at the head count of loan officers in our marketplace, the head count of real estate agent in our marketplace, they're all going down. And as dues are now, especially for realtors, annually we have to pay dues. That we're going to see how that plays out when it comes time to pony up. Hey, are you going to pay the $500, $600 to be a member of the National Association of Realtors, or is it not worth it? And so I think come February, when we see those numbers from the new year, the rollover, I think we're going to have a better idea of what the headcount shakeout is going to look and feel like.
So when you look back at 2023, what are kind of the 3 headline takeaways of what we experienced in the real estate world? Yeah,
I think the one that jumps at me is unpredictability. You said it earlier, no one has a crystal ball. And we can study the analysts as deeply as we want, but they change their predictions as well. And so really, as interest rates went up and the effect it had on the marketplace, we tried our best to read and look and analyze as many of the reports out there as to what to expect. But it was just unpredictable. No one could predict what has happened, especially in our local market. The resiliency of pricing has been the chief item of unpredictability that everyone is resoundingly surprised at.
Talk about that a little bit more. What do you mean by that? Are house prices staying pretty steady? Are they going up? What are people actually experiencing in the Phoenix area?
Well, it's funny because when I talk to most people, they go, well, with real estate prices going down and we're just going to wait. The reality is prices are up in our marketplace. An average sale price went from $516,000 in January to $561,000 now. We're up 8%. So We talk to people all the time that go, hey, I'm just going to wait for prices to come down and interest rates to come down. We haven't seen that. And we haven't seen that because supply has been so low that it's bolstered the lack of demand. So in a marketplace where we deal with supply and demand all the time, residential real estate is an open market, free market thing. What's the cost of money? Is there supply out there? And so when supply is low and demand is low, but supply isn't as low as demand, so it's pulling prices up. And we're not building enough homes for the number of people that are moving to the valley. And so we have seen prices increase in this marketplace 8% this year.
Kind of put that in perspective, because I try to explain to people, and hopefully I'm right, but it's kind of what you just kind of explained right now. Interest rates are high, so nobody wants to buy because they don't want to get out of a house that they can basically afford. They don't want to. They don't want to sell, and they don't want to buy because they're going to move down in quality of house, right? So they don't want to do that. So if interest rates start to come down, does that mean home prices are going to go up? Is it like one of these things?
Yeah, it's very likely going to be one of those things, especially in our marketplace. A very interesting statistic that I read recently, again, it came from an analyst, so I don't know if it's accurate or not, but it makes a lot of sense to me. Nationwide, as interest rates drop, for every 1% that interest rates drop, 1 million buyers enter the market.
Wow.
So think about that. In our marketplace, for the last 2 years, we've seen a bind up of demand. To Susan's point earlier, she's got a low interest rate on her house. She doesn't want to exchange that interest rate for a higher interest rate to move to a bigger house. But she will hit a threshold, and consumers will hit a threshold. When I talk to my lender partners, they have in their systems little tick marks next to people that say, hey, when interest hits 6.5, call me. I'm a player then. When interest rates hit 6, call me. I'm going to do it then. When interest rates hit 5.5, that's my threshold, right? So we built in this demand. Those people who are in kind of the want market, not necessarily the need market, they're on the sideline and they are waiting. And as we hit those various inflection points, we are going to see demand released into the marketplace, a more active marketplace. We could potentially see some more listings as people like Susan are going, hey, I'm willing to exchange this house for that house now that the interest rate is somewhat reasonable. And so we may see an uptick in the number of homes on the marketplace. But as that interest rate goes down and buyer demand goes up, we can reasonably expect to see prices continue to go up.
But there's a lot of people in your situation who have an extremely attractive interest rate. Let's just make it around 3%. You're lucky enough to have it under 3%, but at 3%, let's just say people like you who want to sell, they can't get into another house that's going to be as nice as yours. I mean, they could, but
the math doesn't make sense.
The math doesn't make sense
right now. So yeah, it would have to be. We would have to I think to Trevor's point, there would have to be something that we couldn't get in our current house that would make us jump back into the market and put ours on the market, right? Because the monthly payments would change so dramatically.
Oh man. I mean, you would almost have, if you're really desperate to sell because you want to buy, you're going to move into a house that's more expensive, but probably not as nice as the one that you're currently in. It is just a messed up deal.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, look into, Trevor, for us, look into 2024. When is this kind of interest rate maybe lowering going to happen? Is it going to happen?
Yeah, everyone is predicting that it is. And I tell you what, over the last 45 to 50 days, we have seen the 30-year fixed mortgage rate go down by nearly 0.5%. So there is already significant movement based on what the bond market is seeing with all of the details of the job market, all the details of inflation showing an improvement. And so the bond market has responded very dramatically. And our mortgage rates are really fixed to the bond market, not the Fed funds rate. But the Fed funds rate, the rate that everyone talks about, oh, the Fed is raising, the Fed is lowering, that rate has a tangential effect on all interest rates across the marketplace. And so when they lower, we can expect our rates on the mortgage side to go lower. When they raise, we can expect our mortgage rates to go higher based on the underlying economic data that the bond market is responding to. And so we have seen a steady progression of rates going lower. And some analysts, there was just a Goldman Sachs report that came out recently. Again, analysts change their views all the time, which is fine because new data is coming in. I completely understand it. But they are predicting that the Fed is going to lower rates 6 times over the course of next year. I don't know if I believe that, but I do think that there's going to be some lowering of rates. And really, we can probably expect it not right at the get-go in the beginning of the year. Q2, Q3, I think we're going to start seeing some more movement. So I think the first half of 2024 is going to look similar to this marketplace. I think rates are going to vacillate a little bit. I think we're going to see a little bit of decrease, but I think we're going to start seeing the heavier decreases in interest rate as the year progresses and as the Fed is able to look at the data and go, hey, we do have inflation under control. We are seeing an uptick in unemployment. You know, all of the metrics that they look at to adjust their rate, I think we're going to start seeing more of that as the year progresses.
Let's talk about cash buyers. There's a ton of Californians moving here. There's a lot of Midwest folks from Chicago. They have a lot of money to play with because they're selling up where they are for a pretty penny, and they're in a position where they can buy a home here in Arizona very affordable. What's the cash buying situation right now? Is it a good time, or should somebody with cash wait?
Well, you know, the traditional thought with purchasing real estate during inflationary times is that real estate purchase is a hedge against inflation. You know, mostly that really works in like the cash flow situation. Hey, I'm going to buy a rental property or I'm going to buy a commercial property, but it still applies to residential real estate purchases. And the people that are coming from Chicago and California and bringing a big bag of money, you know, they are typically pretty financially savvy and understand that parking their money in real estate is a good hedge against inflation. And so we are seeing a good amount of cash buyers coming from those marketplace places that you mentioned. Now, I will say that really, typically we're seeing the cash buyers in the more luxury space, let's call it above $1.5 million, $2 million. We see a big component of cash buyers in that space. But interestingly, during about the second half of this year, we saw some combinations occurring. We saw, hey, I'm going to buy a $2 million house. I'm going to put $1 million down and I'm going to get $1 million loan. Now, the reasoning for that is completely individualized, but some of it is like, hey, I want $1 million still sitting in the marketplace working, and I want $1 million parked in real estate as a hedge against inflation. And so we're seeing more hybrid activity when it comes to the cash buyers, as they are realizing that inflation may be under check and their money can do some other stuff for them in other areas of the market.
I understand that the traditional increase for a house is about 5% a year. That's a healthy increase. Is that still the rule of thumb?
Yeah, typically, you know, when you take out all the kind of the wonky years in our marketplace, 3.5%, 4% is about normal. 5% nationally, I think, is really a good, healthy number. And so that typically is what we look at as health. So for me as a practitioner, when I see 8%, that still tells me, hey, we're above kind of that median. And so there's something going on in our marketplace. If we're well below that or we're shrinking, then we also know that there's some activity on the other side going on. So when you look statistically, the National Association of Realtors is predicting, I believe it's a 5.6% increase in house pricing next year. So it's right in line with the statistic you just mentioned.
We have talked a lot about the math. I want to get into some of the other maybe trends. So, you know, over the past few years, we saw a lot of people wanting, you know, the completely open concept houses. But then the pandemic happened and people realized they needed a couple more walls. They wanted space. They wanted an office. They wanted a playroom that was closed off so people could have privacy a little bit more when we were home so much. What are we looking at for 2024? Are we back to open concept because we're all back out and about in the world, or are we kind of sticking to, you know, our privacy and our walls?
Yeah, that's an absolutely great question. And the reality is, and what a really good indicator for that is new home sales. So when you look at what new home builders are building, if you look at the graph from size of home, let's call it in the peak, right before the crash in 2007, 2008, they were significantly larger than today. Month over month, the size of homes at new home builders has been decreasing since the Great Recession. So what that tells me as a practitioner is people like a consolidated living environment. People like the siloing. People want to have an office. They want to have a playroom or a teen room. They want to have space for the kids that is just not out in the open. You know, you walk into some of these great open concept homes and you step right into kids' toys, right? Or you step right into, you know, a desk set up there because there's nothing else set up. You know, there's no other room for them. And so, you know, I think what we're seeing is, in this marketplace and in inflationary times when everything else gets more expensive, you gotta pull where you can, and housing is a big lever to pull. And so you may not be getting a 3,500 square foot home. You may be getting a 2,400 square foot home, but you're going to use that space very efficiently as opposed to having some of these big open spaces. So I think the consumer, now that we have all lived through inflationary times, and we know when you go buy some eggs or, you know, bacon, and, you know, you're trying to do Thanksgiving or Hanukkah or Christmas, it is more expensive. People have eaten a little bit of humble pie and they're willing to give up on that great room concept so that they can have a very efficient and effective home that lives really well for their family.
What are some of the other things that buyers, when you are walking through a home with a potential buyer, that they are gravitating toward and really loving in a house? You know, maybe if we have some potential sellers listening, what do they need to do to get a house ready to be the most attractive option?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, consumers, buyers are very, very picky right now. You know, inventory's low, so they're not looking. I'm not taking buyers out on 25 home tours. You know, it used to be if I showed someone 20 homes and they didn't buy, I'd sit them down and I'd go, okay, what's going on? Right? That was my threshold. Now it's like 5 or 6. Because you're cherry picking. There's not as much out there. You don't feel like you have to look at a ton. You're really looking specifically in very specific neighborhoods for very specific things. And when you walk in, if it's not ticking 90% of those boxes, the consumer just goes, hey, listen, interest rates are up. Things are expensive. This isn't exactly what I want. We're out. We're going to go look at the next one. So as a seller, when I'm talking to my clients and they're about to list their home, it really is about sprucing the home. You know, you want to take out, and we use a percentage. Like we'll go into a home and go, hey, I think you should remove 30% of your stuff. I think you should remove 50% of your stuff. You're moving anyways, go through it, have an estate sale, pack it up into a pod and get it out of here. So clear out some of the clutter so that people walk in and see the home, not your items. Paint is one of the easiest things that sellers can do. A fresh coat of exterior and interior paint will create a very nice, clean, fresh palette. And sometimes that smell, walking into a home, smell a little bit of that fresh paint, it makes you feel like you're walking into something that hasn't been lived in by someone else. And so if you can clear some of your stuff out, if you can paint the house, if you can give it some curb appeal, because the first thing people do when they see something, I did this myself, I bought last November. When I saw it online, I told my wife, hey, I'm going to drive by it. So everyone loves to drive by. So if you drive by and if you're a seller and you go, hey, I want someone to emote. I want someone to look at this house and go, I've got to get inside. Look at this. It's so cute. It's this, it's that. So curb appeal is massively important. And all of these things, decluttering, interior paint, exterior paint, and planting some seasonal flowers, none of that is overly burdensome when it comes to pricing. And you know, although I can't list a house without having that stuff and then list it with that stuff, so I don't have a direct comparison to like how much more you're going to earn, those sorts of things, I always look at a consumer and I go, hey, if I ask you to spend $1, the only way I'm going to ask you to spend $1 is if one of two things happens. One, you get $1.25 back when you sell it, or you sell it faster. And those types of things that I just described do both of those things. You're going to recoup more than you put in, and you're going to sell your home faster. You're going to stand out against the competition. You're going to get buyers to become emotionally invested in the home, want to get inside of the house, see it. It's going to be decluttered. It's going to have fresh paint. It's going to be clean. So, you know, some really small tweaks can yield some very good results for sellers in this market.
And some good neutrals. I remember when we were on the house hunt, we saw, I think 14 homes in one weekend. We were out here for a weekend to look, and we just saw everything. And there was one home, and we really loved the location, and it had a really pretty backyard and kind of all the features that we wanted out of a house. But it had been renovated recently in the exact opposite taste that we wanted. So the sellers felt like their house was worth a whole bunch of money because they just sunk money into it.
What was the turnoff that you didn't like?
Oh, it was like everything.
Really?
Yeah,
Just not your.
It was just not our colors. It was not our style. It was like nothing about it, you know, was what felt like home to us.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that it was ugly or something. Like for somebody else, it
Just
was
not
beautiful.
you.
It just wasn't us. So we walked in and we were like, even though it's renovated, we would want to renovate the whole thing ourselves.
You want to renovate the renovation.
And then we're wasting money, right? Because we're already paying for their renovation, and then we'd have to do our own. So like those things, I mean, those come up for seller or for buyers.
The turnoff for me is carpeting, and I'm guilty of it because we have it in our upstairs and in our bedroom, and I have to tell you, I hate it. It was nice.
But it's so comfortable to walk on.
Trevor, tell us about the carpeting. Is that like passe? I mean, you know what? I go into a lot. We go into a lot of different homes. I mean, we've been from dirt floor homes to multi-million-dollar mansions, and we see the whole thing.
Gamut.
And we've been from top to bottom. I love the wood floors. I guess it's actually tile, but it looks like wood. I mean, that's what I want.
Yeah.
I want to rip that carpeting up. But
we installed wood floor on our first floor, but we did put in carpet like going up the stairs because I don't want my kids falling down the stairs.
Yeah.
You know, we had the agreement that when they're teenagers, we'll make the stairs beautiful and wood. But not now.
Hey, can you have wooden stairs? Or, I mean, I've never seen that, and it sounds like it would be very noisy walking down.
No, you can have it. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, let's see what Trevor has to say. Trevor?
Yeah, you can have, absolutely. You can have wood stairs. You can have laminate stairs. You can have luxury vinyl planks stairs. You can have carpeted stairs, or you can have wood with a runner that goes down. So we see it all. And I will say carpet is one of those where I would say it's divisive. It's like Saltillo tile. You know, when people walk in and they see Saltillo, 70% of people go, ugh. And then 30% are like, I love this. This
it's
is
either
Southwest.
You love it or you hate it.
Mm-hmm.
100. There's no in between. There's no one that's like, oh, that's okay. Like you love it or hate it. And when it comes to carpet, similar. Now, most people are more tolerant of carpet, especially when it's in the living space or the bedroom spaces, right? You walk in, and to Susan's point, it's comfortable. It's nice. One of the things that trips people up is carpet in bathrooms. That's a weird one. Right? You see that. I mean, it's just a weird one.
That sounds gross.
It sounds like there's no way it can possibly be clean.
No. I mean, you've got all kinds of hair falling down. Gross. I don't
want
to talk about this.
Makeup from brushes, the whole thing. I mean, everything gets captured in the carpet. And so, my preference when we bought in November, we did wall-to-wall wood because we can get area rugs and soften it up. In our bedroom, we have a rug. In all of our bedrooms, the kids' bedrooms, we have rugs. In our main living space, we have rugs. But also, we have 4 kids, and they will trash carpet. I mean, we've already had to throw out 2 rugs because of pets and kids. So we don't buy expensive rugs. We buy rugs that we can clean. But the wood for us, and it's an engineered wood. It's not it's not soft. It doesn't scratch. For us, it provides a little bit of give. It's a nice product, but also if they spill stuff, it's a wipe up. It's not, no one's freaking out about it. And again, with the rugs, you can soften it up in your more intimate living spaces, bedrooms, family rooms, that sort of stuff. But then you've got the durability and the look of a wood product.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think I'm going to stay in my house for a while.
For a little while.
Can't beat the interest rate. Trevor, thanks so much for being on the On Your Side podcast. If people want to know more about you or your company, just throw out some social media accounts or websites that we need to know about.
Sure. Thank you. You can get on Instagram at Halpern Residential. You can Google me, Trevor Halpern. You can get on my website, halpernresidential.com, or you can call or text me at 602-595-4200.
All right. Sounds good. Again, thanks for being on the podcast. And I can guarantee we're going to have you on again when 2024 gets here, just to kind of keep up with what's happening and maybe some changes down the road. Okay.
Love it. Thanks for having me and look forward to coming back.
The On Your Side podcast is produced by Brad Denny. Our audio engineer and editor is Todd Martin. Segment producer is Colin Stanton. And I'm Gary Harper.
And I'm Susan Campbell. If you have a problem you can't resolve, maybe we can. Send us a message through azfamily.com or our AZ Family mobile app. Look for the On Your Side section and leave us a message. Thanks so much for listening to the On Your Side podcast. And if you like it, leave us a review. We'll see you next week.
On Your Side is on Good Morning Arizona every weekday morning at 6:45 and 7 o'clock, and every weekday evening on Good Evening Arizona at 4 and 5 o'clock. You can also catch it on Arizona's Family News at 9 on 3TV every weeknight.